Thanks for joining me. Coming up tonight, we will take a closer look at the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, and the Molson Coors shooting. On September 10, 2001, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld admits $2.3 trillion is missing from the Pentagon. Regardless of whether this was connected to the 9/11 attack, the missing money is a major problem in and of itself. We know that missing or unaccounted for money ends up in black projects. The very next day, the U.S. military is conducting a major war game training exercise, codenamed Global Guardian. During this military war game, the Pentagon and World Trade Center are attacked, and financial records and databases related to the missing $2.3 trillion is destroyed, preventing an audit and accountability. Nobody could even imagine that it was a black project inside job. But as time passed, the evidence would overwhelmingly suggest just that. Experienced firefighters who responded to the World Trade Center attack described witnessing multiple explosions consistent with controlled demolition. Experts said jet fuel burns about the same temperature as diesel fuel, not nearly hot enough to melt the steel beams. And what about the concrete columns? Building 7 wasn't even hit by a plane, and it also fell pro-demo style. Then we found super thermite, also known as nanothermite, in the dust at ground zero. I could continue listing evidence, but we'll stop there. The 9/11 attack led to the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, the Patriot Act, and the Illegal Surveillance Program. Section 215 of the Patriot Act violates the U.S. Constitution and is treasonous. The Department of Homeland Security has been charged with excessive bureaucracy, wasting funds and resources, incompetence, unwarranted secrecy, and targeting U.S. civilians who aren't criminals and pose no threat. Congress estimates the department has wasted over $15 billion in failed contracts. In 2003, it was revealed that the Deputy Chief Information Officer, who was responsible for sensitive national security databases, obtained her credentials fraudulently. The department was blamed for $2 billion of wasted funds and fraud after audits by the Government Accountability Office revealed widespread misuse of government credit cards. A 2015 inspection of the department's IT infrastructure found that the department was running over 100 computer systems whose owners were unknown, including secret and top-secret databases, and the department made attempts to prevent this information from being released. In 2007, the Department of Homeland Security was caught using an anti-terrorism computer program called Advice on U.S. civilians. They claimed they were just testing the program that wrongfully associated U.S. civilians with crimes they never committed. Lacking justification, the program was supposedly shut down and was a $42 million waste of money. In short, the Department of Homeland Security is accused of being ineffective at counterterrorism and proficient at violating the civil liberties of American citizens. The Department of Homeland Security labeled a large number of Americans as threats to national security. The Department of Homeland Security also published a terrorism threat assessment accusing certain universities as being potential hubs for terrorist-related activity. The report targeted black colleges in particular. Last but not least, the Department of Homeland Security is accused of violating the Freedom of Information Act more than any other department or agency. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers will be the next subject of scrutiny. In 2009, as state superintendent, Evers used government email accounts for fundraising his campaign and was fined for soliciting campaign donations during work hours. This is a person who has a history of being dishonest to advance in public office. In February 2019, Evers withdrew the Wisconsin National Guard from the Mexican border, where they were doing their job securing the border, stating, quote, "There is no evidence of a national security crisis along the border," unquote. This is a person pushing unconstitutional anti-Second Amendment gun control on one hand, while pretending that we don't have a security issue along the southern border on the other hand. Every day, thousands of people attempt to enter the United States illegally along the southern border. On the screen to my right, you will see footage of a video I recently released showing Mexican criminal cartels overpowering and controlling Mexican police and Mexican military, and Governor Evers would allow them to enter as he doesn't see them as a threat. But Governor Evers sees you as a threat if you exercise your Second Amendment right. Tony Evers has a history of unsuccessful attempts at unconstitutional gun control legislation. In response, Wisconsin Senator Scott Fitzgerald said, quote, "It's easy to see how today's action by Tony Evers could just be the first attack on the Second Amendment. The Senate will not be part of a drawn-out strategy to infringe on constitutional rights," unquote. Wisconsin State Assembly Speaker Robin J. Voss added, quote, "A special session call will not change where my Assembly Republican colleagues and I stand on protecting the Second Amendment rights of Wisconsin citizens," unquote. In 2015, the Department of Justice required that SABMiller spins off all Miller Coors holdings in the United States, which included both Miller and Coors brands, along with its Miller brands outside the U.S. SABMiller agreed to divest itself of the Miller brands by selling its stake in Miller Coors to the Molson Coors. As per the agreement with the regulators, SABMiller sold to Molson Coors full ownership of the Miller brand outside of the United States and Puerto Rico for $12 billion US. FEMA is part of the Department of Homeland Security, and states can earn federal funding by participating in their programs and training drills. We're going to focus our attention on active shooter drills, and one of the requirements for the funding is the training drill has to be a community event involving the community. So you take corrupt politicians pushing unconstitutional gun control legislation, and you mix them with FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security, and I think you have your answer to some, not all, but some of these shootings. And they fit the same script. The narrative is a lie, the shooter kills himself, and the only motive is gun control. Course overview: an active shooter is an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and other populated area. In most cases, active shooters use firearms, and there is no pattern or method to their selection of victims. Active shooter situations are unpredictable and evolve quickly. Here's a list of places that can apply for the funding. And it's interesting to note that this last little group here, they aren't even in the United States. Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, Republic of the Marshall Islands, and Federated States of Micronesia. National Incident Management System, NIMS. This section of the website provides information on the NIMS. NIMS is intended to be used by the whole community. The intended audience for this section is individuals, families, communities, the private and nonprofit sectors, faith-based organizations, and state, local, tribal, territorial, and federal governments. Release of the refreshed NIMS doctrine. FEMA released the refreshed NIMS doctrine on October 17, 2017. NIMS provides a common nationwide approach to enable the whole community to work together to manage all threats and hazards NIMS applies to all incidents regardless of cause, size, location, or complexity. For the purpose of this document, the word incident includes planned events as well as emergencies and/or disasters of all kinds and sizes. Case studies and use of grant-funded resources during real-world incident operations. Incident command system changes. Revised description of the intelligence investigations function. Revised manageable span of control guidance. Made revisions to the incident planning process to align with the processes in use within the emergency management community. Consistent use of the term incident management team to refer to pre-rostered teams that may be assigned to an incident. Includes list of possible command advisors, including legal counsel, medical advisor, and access and functional needs advisor. Added resource team as an alternative law enforcement term for strike team. Incident command system structure. ICS still includes 5 major functional areas: command operations, planning, logistics, and financial administration. You can see here that the incident commander is above the public information officer. So even the public information is going to come from the incident commander. Here's another overview of the diagram. Incident Management Assistant Team, IMAT. IMTs are rostered groups of ICS qualified personnel consisting of an incident commander, other incident leadership, and personnel qualified for other key ICS positions. IMTs exist at local, regional, state, tribal, and national levels and have formal notification, deployment, and operational procedures in place. IMTs can be delegated the authority to act on behalf of the affected jurisdiction or organization. IMAT. Some IMTs are referred to as Incident Management Assistance Teams, IMAT, to clarify that they support on-scene personnel and/or the affected jurisdictions. IMATs exist at various levels of government and within the private sector. As an example, FEMA IMATs deploy to incidents to help identify and provide federal assistance and coordinate and integrate interjurisdictional response in support of an affected state or tribe. Describing the MAC group. Multi-agency coordination. MAC groups are part of the off-site incident management structure of NIMS. MAC group members are typically agency administrators or senior executives from stakeholder agencies impacted by and with resources committed to the incident. This is pretty interesting, folks. The stuff that I'm pointing out here is key stuff, and you're really going to want to read in between the lines. You can see here that they want the whole community has to be involved in these drills or they don't qualify for the funding, and they want business CEOs and business owners and stakeholders to be heavily involved as well. The MAC group may also include representatives from non-government organizations. During incidents, MAC groups act as a policy level body, support resource prioritization and allocation, make cooperative multi-agency decisions, and enable decision-making among elected and appointed officials with those managing the incident. MAC groups do not perform incident command functions. MAC groups do not replace the primary functions of operations, coordination, or dispatch organizations. Here's some stuff that I highlighted. Developing, recommending, and executing public information plans and strategies, addressing and managing rumors and inaccurate information. So it seems like this goes well above and beyond like a drill or training. You can see here that they want to control information and public information and stuff like that. Whole community preparedness. Preparedness is a shared responsibility. It calls for the involvement of everyone, not just the government, in preparedness efforts. By working together, everyone can help keep the nation safe from harm and help keep it resilient when struck by hazards such as natural disasters, acts of terrorism, and pandemics. Whole community includes, and there's a list there, active shooter preparedness. DHS aims to enhance national preparedness through a whole community approach by providing the necessary products, tools, and resources to help all stakeholders prepare for and respond to an active shooter incident. To that end, DHS has developed a comprehensive active shooter preparedness website, which includes informational resources available at www.dhs.gov/active shooter preparedness. National Exercise Division. The National Exercise Division's mission is to support citizens, first responders, senior government officials, and the public and private sectors by providing exercise doctrine, programs, and resources needed to achieve the national preparedness goal and foster a secure and resilient nation with the capabilities to prevent, protect against, mitigate, respond to, and recover from all threats and hazards. National Exercise Program. The National Preparedness System organizes actions to plan, organize, equip, train, and exercise the capabilities necessary to prevent, protect against, mitigate the effects of, respond to, and recover from those threats and hazards that pose the greatest risk to the security of the nation. The National Preparedness System is the instrument the nation employs to consistently build, sustain, and deliver those capabilities to achieve the goal of a secure and resilient nation. As a component of the National Preparedness System, the National Exercise Program is the principal mechanism for examining readiness and validating nationwide preparedness across the entire Homeland Security, public safety, and emergency management enterprise. The National Exercise Program consists of a 2-year progressive cycle of select exercises across the whole community, anchored to a common set of strategic objectives that culminates in a national level exercise. First of all, Molson Coors is a business, not a school, so every single reporter who referred to it as a campus should be asked where they got that script or narrative. Interestingly, Molson Coors is surrounded by a lot of schools. There's Mount Mary University, Marquette University in high school, the University of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the Medical College of Wisconsin, just to name a few. It looks like whatever happened at the brewery plant was originally planned for one of the nearby schools, and whoever changed the plan and script forgot to remove the word campus. I haven't seen a single video showing shooting or even the sound of gunfire. I haven't seen a single video showing anyone shot dead or injured, nor have I seen any videos of dead or injured being evacuated or transported. But that's okay. I'm not even making that into an issue. The problem is none of the witnesses saw the shooting or heard the shooting, and none of the witnesses report seeing dead or injured being transported. What we do see is witnesses talking about being involved in recent active shooter drills. Coming up next, I will highlight this information using video footage. According to Police Chief Morales, the shooting happened at around 2:09 p.m. on February 26, 2020. At 2:10 p.m., 1 minute later, a Molson Coors Company email told employees there was an active shooter located in or near South Packaging Building 4 in a stairwell on the second floor. Local reporters heard scanner traffic and arrived quickly. Police would not confirm there was a shooter. Reporters witnessed police searching a car in the brewery employee parking lot, and they also witnessed police swarming a house on the northwest side of the city. At 2:30 p.m., an employee is on camera saying she received an email about an active shooter near Building 4. At 2:35 p.m., a tweet from the Milwaukee PD said the department is investigating a critical incident and to avoid the area. Before 2:57 p.m., 2 law enforcement sources told WISN the suspected shooter is an employee who was fired earlier in the day then returned with a gun. At 3:11 p.m., Harley-Davidson emails its employees warning them about an active shooter. By 3:15 p.m., Harley-Davidson, Story Elementary, and Marquette High were placed on lockdown. At 3:43 p.m., the Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's Office said they weren't called to Molson Coors. That was found to be very interesting. At around 3:45 p.m., after studying police scanner traffic, local news outlets reported 7 dead, including gunmen, but still unconfirmed. At around 3:50 p.m., SWAT responds to the scene. A WISN reporter watching from helicopter reported not seeing even one of the 6 ambulances leave the scene. At 4:24 p.m., a reporter visits the nearest hospital and discovers they received no victims or wounded. And you can see the tweet from Rebecca Clough on the screen there. During the press conference, Police Chief Morales makes 2 bizarre statements, saying there were no injuries and that his concern was identifying who was missing. Missing from what? A drill?
So again, as this has all unfolded, some of the clues that we've been able to get as we await for the police is scanner traffic, and that is conversations between the dispatch sending out to police to get them to these critical scenes. So let's hear one of those scanner traffic reports that came in shortly after shots were fired.
Response 3939 West Highland Boulevard. Active shooter. What report of one person shot at Milwaukee Coors 3939 West Highland Boulevard.
3939 West Highland Boulevard. 3939 West Highland Boulevard. Milwaukee Coors for active shooter. One person shot. I copy. Is the scene safe? It's currently not confirmed as a safe scene.
And again, that was just moments after the first shots were fired. We do know, after speaking with Mayor Tom Barrett, it is multiple victims involved in this incident today on the campus of Milwaukee Coors Brewing Company. And we are awaiting, just about 15 minutes away from a news conference with Chief Morales, along with the other top law enforcement agencies who are here investigating this crime.
And those calls were about, just want to confirm, we talk about a basic timeline. Our information is that those first calls that we just played were about 11 minutes after 2 this afternoon. First time that is showing up on the record. So thought it was in the neighborhood of about 20 after, Charles, when we first started hearing about it.
And I was just going to say, here we are 3 hours into this gut-wrenching afternoon for not only the employees here at Molson Coors, but for the city of Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin, as we have now seen again unfold in real time in our backyard, in where we call home, another mass shooting. And there's going to be a lot of conversations going on about why and how, as we wait to learn what exactly happened, what triggered this particular situation. And Vince, as you know, we are waiting to hear from the police chief. We also hearing that Governor Evers is going to be having a news conference. Lots of people are weighing in, but what we still don't know is why.
I think we ought to get this in as well. We heard from the mayor. Of course, this is an election year. The mayor's running for re-election. His challenger, State Senator Lena Taylor, is out with a statement, so I want to provide that for you as well. It reads in part, "I am profoundly saddened to learn about the number of lives lost today at a Molson Coors facility. While we wait to understand the motive behind this tragedy, many of us are again shaking our heads in disbelief. We are forced to question if this was preventable. Were there warning signs? For now, however, we will humbly mourn the loss of life, support our neighbors and their families, and work to get through this difficult time." That from State Senator Lena Taylor, also a candidate for mayor of Milwaukee.
Let's send it out to Steve Shamraz, who's also been on scene for the last few hours nearby the headquarters of Molson Coors Brewing Company. Steve?
Yeah, we are parked at 37th and Highland, which is right between Molson Coors and Harley-Davidson. Harley appears to be trying to get back to business as usual. There's been a steady stream of traffic leaving the parking lot over the last, say, 40 minutes or so as they're finally off of their lockdown, letting people go home. On the other side of the street, on the south side of Highland, the parking lots are mostly full. You do see a couple of cars trickling out every once in a while. Only in the last 5 minutes have we seen any vehicles leaving. Also going into that parking lot was a caravan of vehicles from the Wisconsin Department of Justice State Crime Lab. The timing of that was just at the same time that we got the statement emailed from Attorney General Josh Call saying that the state DOJ would do whatever it could and that they were on scene. They arrived scene just as that email hit our mailboxes. They are now inside the facility joining the investigation. Just a massive amount of law enforcement out here today. I heard our friend Steve Peterson talking about how it could have been a shift change at the tactical headquarters, only 10 blocks away from here, and that would partially explain it. This is just one of the largest responses of law enforcement.
Like, hey, your street's blocked off. I was like, what? So when I looked out the front, I saw it blocked off, but I haven't seen any commotion.
And obviously, you know, we're trying to figure out what's going on, piecing it all together here, but typically, you know, not something you're used to when you come home.
Yeah, not this kind of.
Do you know your neighbors well?
Yeah, my parents have actually owned this house for 37 years. They moved to Georgia 2 years ago. I'm living here now, so this is pretty much where I grew up. They raised me and all 5 of my siblings.
Here on Potomac?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And police obviously are going in and out of a home on about 8200 Potomac. Do you know any of the neighbors there?
Some of them have kind of started phasing out. We've got a couple of the older homeowners, but I mean, it's fairly quiet. I don't really know anybody or interact with too many people anymore, but I don't have any problems with anyone either.
What do you think that they're piecing it all together from an active shooter situation that happened at Miller Coors this afternoon?
I have it's just beyond me. I didn't even know about the shooting situation either. So yeah, this is all just brand news to me right now.
Well, I was at my desk and I got the email about the active shooter, so I left my desk and was checking my email on my phone. I got more notifications and more notifications, so they were keeping us up to date really well. They just told us shelter in place, so we sheltered in place. We tried to stay together and made sure everybody was accounted for, and we just did our best to wait it out. But we had safety captains who were handling the situation, who made sure that everybody was there and kept everybody together. And
who knew what to do in a situation?
Where did you take cover? We took cover in a conference room. Yeah.
For how long?
We were in for about 2 hours, I think. I think it was like 2 hours. Yeah.
Was it emotional in there? Were people upset, worried, scared?
Just trying to stay on top of the situation. I mean, because we're in corporate, we have a lot of people who are relatively high up in the company, so they made sure that the attitude and that the level in there was very kind of rational and just keeping abreast of the situation.
Let's hear again from some of the employees who've been filing out. Boy, last hour or so, it really looked like they began leaving in earnest. We understand that there could have been as many as 1,000 or more employees on the full campus there at Miller Coors at the time of this shooting. So it was quite some time before they began to be dismissed. But as they've been leaving, some of them have been willing to share their thoughts and emotions with us.
We really didn't hear much at all. We were up above this, what they call the stables.
Okay.
And so that's more of a training area and health center, and
so just like sit in a room.
Right. We were just waiting in a room and protocol, and you know, we've had some active shooter training down here, so we were just following our training and just staying put until the police came and got us.
So hearing from the employees, obviously they have been trained and are aware of how to handle a situation like this. And Steve Shamraz, as you see more and more employees walking out of that headquarters today, they have to be thinking back about, one, that they had this kind of training to help in this situation, but wondering who didn't get out, who's not going home tonight.
Steve, I'm curious if you caught any of that interview with any of the interviews that we've done with employees who've talked to us about their training. I have somebody close to law enforcement who's telling me that Miller Coors did do active shooter training, and it appears from this person's perspective, that they followed it to a T that could well have saved lives today. Is that your observation, hearing the things that people are talking about?
Well, just hearing that one interview, absolutely. It sounded like that there was a plan. They notified the employees with whatever protocols and electronic means that they have in place. And most importantly, the employees heeded to those warnings and immediately went to seek a place of shelter, and then having those assigned captains, if you will, to make sure that the employees are following the directions of the alerts that are being put out. At least leads me to believe that they had a plan in place, and again, most importantly, it sounds like the employees were following it.
That told you that they were forced into hiding to get away from a violent situation that we have yet received details on. Brendan Cullerton was the first on scene for us here at CBS 58, and we want to go back to him with what he's found out. Brendan?
Guys, as we wait for more information from police, I can give you kind of an update on what's happening at the scene, which can kind of provide some clues as to what's going on. That's that we just saw a SWAT team kind of gear up out here maybe 5 minutes ago, right where we're standing, and head into the scene, which would lead us to believe that whatever is happening is still unfortunately going on. We saw people with large assault rifles entering the scene. We saw them gearing up with helmets, and we saw medics enter the scene as you see people coming out of the area that police have kind of closed off there. That is the area that we saw the SWAT members kind of head into. So I can't tell you what they're doing, but obviously not a good sign that you still have to send those SWAT members in there, again, leading to believe that whatever is happening is still very much going on.
There are a number of fire trucks here. They're kind of all lined up there, and it appears that those fire trucks right now are kind of on standby. So we know that this is the area where the police will be coming to speak with reporters and give us information about what is unfolding. But so far we have not heard from police. We have not talked with police here at the scene.
Mass shooting situation.
Yeah, here at Spitfire on State, a lot of the Miller employees come here after work, have a beer, maybe have some wings, just try to enjoy themselves. But today, a much different vibe. And I've tried to talk to a lot of these Miller employees, and they tell me that they actually aren't allowed to talk to the media. That's been something that they've been told. But we're talking now with the owners, because it really is like a family here. These guys know a lot of the employees that come through. They were telling me that the employees that were showing up after this first happened, they said that they were arriving with no wallets, no keys, nothing. That's why they decided to feed them and take care of them, and these other people just opening their wallets to help. But we'll talk to a few more people as they are grieving with this process. There are Milwaukee police detectives here trying to talk to folks who did experience anything as they just try to unravel everything that happened today, guys.
What's happened is there was a horrific shooting that has occurred. We're urging all residents and people in this area to stay away from this area simply because of traffic diversions and things like that. But they are continuing their sweep to make sure that nothing more is occurring. But again, it is a horrible, horrible day for the employees here. It is a very rough day for anybody who is close to this situation.
And what we'll find out is that it didn't start when the shots were fired. It started way before then, and hopefully we'll get some of those details, some perspective on what may have happened prior to this shooting happening in a workplace environment. And again, you're looking at video from earlier today when you saw this rush of emergency vehicles on hand trying to get to those who were impacted by this shooting early this afternoon. And Charles, we're 3 hours in and we still don't know a lot of the who, what, the when, and the where of where all this happened. But you can see from the video we're looking at that all hands were on deck and that all of the tactical units were there to try to assist in helping find not only the shooter, but making sure that the situation was under control.
Again, these guys are heavily armed tactical officers that have been going through the buildings here at Molson Coors. This is the parking garage that they're approaching right now. We mentioned that there are some employees that have been here, but you know, We don't know much about the shooter in this situation, and we don't know if that person was an employee here. Do they have a vehicle here? They need to check all that out. They're going to check everything out to make sure it's safe. But this is definitely the largest force of officers we've seen come our direction here off of Highland right now, and they are entering this parking garage. I'm going to listen a little bit to see if I can hear what they're talking about or what they're doing. Just getting instructions of where to go through this garage right now. All right. And there's been some security officers in the office here at this garage throughout the afternoon. Sure.
All right, so as you have observed that location, I do want to bring in Steve Peterson, the former detective from Waukesha County. And Steve, I wanted to sort of help you or get us to understand what's going on here. Is this more of the security sweep that's in place?
Yeah, exactly. Looking at this, it would suggest to me that the majority of the buildings have been cleared, and now they're going to come in and they're going to sweep that parking structure, which is probably full of a whole bunch of vehicles, and they're going to do a methodical sweep to make sure that the parking structure is secure. So once all these components get done, they get that parking structure secure. If they feel really reasonably secure that, all the other buildings and the ancillary auxiliary buildings are secure, you'll probably start to see a release of those employees that have been holding in place while this has been going on.
Steve Peterson, we really appreciate you help us walk through what is happening. Tom Durian also providing so much clarity on what is happening at that location. And so
I just wanted to interject.
Hey, Charles, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, just wanted to let you know, so they're going through the garage. Our photographer, Gideon, was able to shoot in there, and they are looking individually at car to car. Now, you have this gentleman walking here. I presume he's one of the employees. We've seen this before, where they come around the backside. They made the long trek around to come get their vehicle. He just happens to be walking in at a time where he doesn't know that there are dozens of officers inside there right now. But we have seen them go car to car inside the garage there. They're obviously out of our field of view right at the moment. But this is a 3-level parking garage, and I can see vehicles on the top. It has been full all afternoon long. And again, there have been some people coming here to get their vehicles throughout the day. Here's this gentleman's going to interact with the officers here, probably not knowing what he's about to walk into there. But you can see, we know that the scene is starting to get a little tighter and be more controlled. This would have not happened earlier. Nobody would have been able to walk through here. They had this area pretty well cordoned off. But there again, they also took about 2 canine officers in there to take a look at the vehicles as well.
Tom, thank you for that update. Again, as you see, they are expanding the investigation, not only from the building where this may have transpired, but now into that parking lot. And as you said, sweeping through every vehicle. But we've also learned that this investigation goes way past State Street and 35th. It actually is where we find our other reporter, Kristen Byrne, who is standing by to give us some new information where you're seeing some activity.
Yes, Shannon, I'm in a neighborhood on the northwest side. We don't want to say the neighborhood at this point because what we have learned is that the information we're getting is that what happened in this neighborhood here, the police activity here on the northwest side, we're led to believe this is connected to what is happening or what has happened at Molson Coors earlier this afternoon. So again, not to jeopardize the police investigation in any way whatsoever, we're not naming where we're at because we don't know in which way this is connected. I can tell you from what we're seeing is that police have been in and out of a home on the northwest side. We have a mobile command unit that's been here. Dozens of police officers have been going in and out of a home. You can see the police tape wrapped up here. Some neighbors, of course, asking us what's going on. This is all developing here, and it has been for some time. But again, police are still have not released the name of the suspect in connection to Molson Coors as of yet. A lot of information still isn't out there, so we're piecing it together as they're piecing it together. We want to give people the most accurate information, but we are led to believe what's happening here in this northwest neighborhood in Milwaukee is somehow connected to the Molson Coors shooting that happened earlier this afternoon. I'll send it back to you guys.
That's our Kristen Byrne live on the northwest side. Kristen, thank you. We're getting aerial pictures in now from our partners at NBC News out of Chicago. They have brought their helicopter up now, and we're getting aerial views of the scene. Just to piggyback off of what Kristen was reporting, a number of us here with sourced information close to or within MPD, now getting information, in fact, that neighborhood where Kristen is on the northwest side is, as she said, connected to this. Beyond that, TMJ4 News is not going further to identify what exactly that connection is, though we're hearing things that's not confirmed, but enough confirmation that the location there and folks in that neighborhood are going to want to know what's with this police response here. What is with all the squads? Why are things taped off when certainly they know nothing particularly went down there, nothing happened there. So that's the explanation for that it is connected to the situation here at Molson Coors, that based on multiple reports from sources.
And having covered some of these high crime situations and when you have multiple fatalities, it is not uncommon to see the footprint of what actually happened begin to expand beyond where the actual shooting took place. And so I think this is evidence that they are looking at something else and are trying to see if there is a connection to this. And I think the mayor spoke to that in general terms, saying this is still an active situation. It is no longer an active shooter situation, but clearly law enforcement is in place to look at the long look here of what still needs to be uncovered about what happened today. That's why we saw very early on the command post arriving on the scene, and that indicated to me the first clue we were in for a long night, because that's where they can get all of those communications going together in one central location to understand what happened inside Molson Coors.
Well, the logistics too, Shannon, we were talking about how many employees at this facility, more than 1,000 may have been on site today, and they have to make sure that they've at least connected with every person who was there. Did you see something? Did you hear something? Because as you indicated, Charles, the shooter situation is done. The investigation is way on the front end of something that's going to take a long time.
Not only that, but when you look at the viewpoint on site here and from above, you can tell that it is all hands on deck with the number of police vehicles that you see on scene. Just moments ago from...
You mentioned the Broadcastify, Charles, which again for our viewers is... trying to bring this up for our viewers, that's how we monitor radio traffic,
Sure.
right? And they put it out. This is dispatch or perhaps other officers communicating with one another. There's a chilling line that was transcribed from those communications from early in this process. And this appears to be an officer who was on scene. And this officer is on the radio saying, "There are patients in the back of my squad. I'm trying to get the fire department directed back here." And it kind of plays to what you both have been talking about in this narrative, the chaos at the moment, not knowing exactly what they were going into, those emergency responders. Here appears to be a police officer who's evacuating patients to his squad car, trying to make sure that they're safe for the moment and then get them emergency medical treatment.
Employees now leaving the headquarters of Molson Coors Brewing Company there on Highland Avenue. Again, this, as you mentioned, you want to get home to your loved ones to let them know I'm okay. But at the same time, the patience that needs to be in that building, in that space right now as law enforcement works to unravel what happened this afternoon. But again, you're taking a live look at a number of employees leaving Molson Coors Brewing headquarters here in Milwaukee on Highland Avenue.
We're waiting for the President of the United States, who had a previously scheduled news conference for this evening. President Trump was expected to speak about coronavirus, but we anticipate that he will mention this situation here in Milwaukee off the top of his remarks tonight. So as we expect and anticipate that, we are waiting for that, monitoring a feed from the White House. We could hear from President Trump at any moment. As soon as the president takes the podium, just want to let you know at home, we are going to cut over to that and hear from the president as he speaks to this particular situation.
But I can't help but think this live picture that we're now seeing, that these employees leaving after what will have been the worst day of their lives, working for a company that has been so important to the city of Milwaukee, and what their thoughts are as they're leaving, and knowing that there are going to be others who aren't going home tonight. At 6 o'clock, we also know that the police chief will give us his first comments about what happened and the investigation going forward. We also know that Governor Evers, who was in town earlier today and is going to be updating us and giving us a news conference as well. He has been a big proponent of more gun control, and at this point, we don't know how all of that will play into the debate and the dialogue that often happens after these types of mass shootings. So I want to let you know, as you're standing by here, waiting for new information, we are as well, waiting to learn more about who are these people that were killed, who is the shooter, and why did all of this happen today at Molson Coors.
So that as we come up here on 5:30, and as Charles indicated, the official news conference here locally set for 6 o'clock or thereabouts. These things are fluid. It's kind of when we get everybody together. We don't know who is expected to speak, but among those you would expect to hear from the Chief of Police, Alfonso Morales, for Milwaukee Police Department. The other thing that we started to talk about, you talk about the President of the United States making some sort of statement on this. We already heard from the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, making statements about this. If you looked at that bank of microphones that was being set up, you could see a number of unfamiliar logos there. Those are crews coming up from Chicago to cover this and to cover this for the networks, as this is national, if not international news at this point. Milwaukee in the spotlight for terrible reasons once again.
Yes, Vinny, and we're waiting on official confirmation. So we're waiting to get information from that news conference happening in about now. We're hearing at about a half an hour or so, so we can find out addresses, names, and things like that to piece this all together. But yes, from what I can tell you, we're in a neighborhood on the northwest side of the city of Milwaukee, and we're led to believe that the police presence that is here, and in specifically centered around a home here in this neighborhood, is connected to the mass shooting that happened at Molson Coors early this afternoon around 2:30. So we've been here since early this afternoon. Now the sun is down, but the police lights are still up. The police tape is still up. I will say they took off down some of the police tape, so we have a little bit more close access to the home that has the lights on inside. That's the home where police have been going in and out of for a good portion of the afternoon. Some of the activity has died down, but the police presence remains on scene. We've seen neighbors just coming home. Some kids are getting off of school late this afternoon, and now people are getting off of work, asking us, what's going on here? What exactly is happening? From what we're saying, we're just telling them we're learning this as you're learning this, and what we're trying to piece it together. But from what we know, we're led to believe that the police presence here is connected to what happened to the shooting. Now, I will say we did speak with a neighbor recently who told us that a man who lives at the home where she saw police going in and out of is an employee at Molson Coors. So that was new information we heard from that neighbor. Again, that's just one neighbor telling us that information. Other people we have asked, do you know who lives there? Do you know anything about that home? And they don't. So we're still trying to, talk with more people. A lot of people kind of staying indoors. It's a winter night. But of course, when they first came home from work asking us what's going on, seeing, pretty unsettling to come home and see a lot of police tape and a lot of police in your neighborhood. We'll let you know if we learn anything new. Back to you guys.
But let's send it out to Steve Shamraz, who is along also within the area with new information. Steve?
Yeah, Shannon and Charles, the CEO of Molson Coors sent an email to all of his employees around the company just a couple of minutes ago. It's time-stamped about 20 minutes ago. I'm going to read a bit of it to you here, and it does confirm some of the details that we have heard over the course of the day. It's from Gavin Hattersley to his employees. Earlier today, we received news of an active shooter on the Milwaukee Brewery campus. The police have since confirmed the shooter, who was an active brewery employee, is now deceased. There is no longer an active threat. Our employees are in the process of being released to go home to their families. This is, again, the email from Gavin Hattersley, the CEO at Molson Coors. He continues, unfortunately, I'm devastated to share we lost 5 other members of our family in this tragic incident. The police are still working to notify their relatives, so I'm unable to provide any other information at this time. No words to express the deep sadness many of us are feeling right now. He says he's on his way to Milwaukee right now because in the hours and days ahead, the most important thing is we support and care for each other. We're closing our Milwaukee office for the remainder of the week, and the Milwaukee Brewery will remain shut down for the time being. To ensure our people have time to cope with today's events, we ask everyone be respectful of how our colleagues in Milwaukee are feeling during this incredibly difficult time, and do what you can to be supportive. And then goes on to provide company resources for anybody who might need them. But again, confirming that the shooter here today, the CEO of Molson Coors, confirming the shooter here was an active employee at the brewery, and that 5 of their co-workers were killed today in this shooting here at the Molson Coors plant, just a couple blocks away from where I'm standing at 40th and State. So that is the email to the employees of this global company from their CEO, mourning the loss of 5 of their co-workers at the hands of one of their fellow employees. Confirmed through that email from the CEO, guys.
All right, Steve Shambraz giving us that.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to extend my deepest condolences to the victims and families in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Earlier today, a wicked murderer opened fire at a Molson Coors Brewing Company plant, taking the lives of 5 people. A number of people were wounded, some badly wounded. Our hearts break for them and their loved ones. We send our condolences. We'll be with them. And it's a terrible thing, terrible thing. So our hearts go out to the people of Wisconsin and to the families. Thank you very much.
And as you can see, Chief Morales stepping to the mic to speak to all the news that is here to get the latest update. Let's listen in.
Hello, all. I'm joined here today with the Mayor of Milwaukee, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and leadership from local, county, and federal law enforcement agencies, along with the District Attorney and U.S. Attorney. Please keep in mind that this is an active and fluid scene, and the investigation is also ongoing and active. There is no threat at this time, and we will continue to investigate throughout the night. At approximately 2:08 p.m. on today's date, the Milwaukee Police Department responded to a call of a shooting at the 4100 block of West State Street. This is known as the Molson Coors Beverage Company, and for most Milwaukee residents, the Old Miller Brewery. Officers located the suspect, a 51-year-old Milwaukee man, deceased from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. At this time, we have located 5 additional deceased adult victims. The victims all worked at Molson Coors, and no members of the general public were involved. The victims' identities will not be released to the public until proper notifications have been made. No other individuals were injured at this time. Further information will be provided by the leadership of Miller Coors executive team when they arrive, as they were all out of state and currently en route, which we're hoping to give you an update after 9 o'clock tonight. It's a terrible day for Milwaukeeans, and I pass on my condolences to the families of the employees of Miller and to the employees of Miller or Molson Coors. Again, I'd like to thank the Milwaukee Police Department, sworn, who responded quickly to attend, the FBI, the ATF, Department of Criminal Investigations, Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, the Marquette Police Department, and the Milwaukee Fire Department for their assistance. As I stated, we'll provide additional information. Please understand that Molson Coors is a large company with over 1,000 employees that were working when this occurred. We have several people we need to talk to, and we have to go through a roll call and identify who's missing, which is why we can't give you all this information currently. We'll have additional information and let you know when this scene becomes safe. I'm now going to pass the mic on to the mayor, and we'll have other leaders from our team here speak. You, Mayor?
Can you identify yourself, sir?
Chief Alfonso Morales to the Milwaukee Police Department.
Good evening, I'm Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett. This is a tragic day for our city. This is a tragic day for our state. 5 families, 6 families actually, are grieving and will be grieving because of this horrific act of this individual. This is a time for us to think about those families, because there were 5 individuals who went to work today, just like everybody goes to work. And they thought they were going to go to work, finish their day, and return to their families. They didn't, and tragically, they never will. I want to thank the Milwaukee Police Department. I want to thank the Milwaukee Fire Department. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department, the FBI. I want to thank the District Attorney for responding when they were needed most. This is an unspeakable tragedy for our city. This is a community tragedy. And as we grieve for these families, we must remember the sacrifices that they made. We will have more information as the families are notified. We'll have more information as more employees are notified as to who the deceased are. But please keep in your prayers these individuals who lost their lives.
What's your name, Mayor?
My name is Mayor Tom Barrett. This is Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes.
Hey, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, and we're here on the scene of another American tragedy, another senseless American tragedy, one that shouldn't have to happen. And unfortunately, it's in our backyard. And I hate to say that it's in our backyard once again. This is the 11th mass shooting in our state since 2004. And I especially want to thank the first responders who so bravely are still responding to the situation. I want to offer my condolences to the families, the friends, the co-workers of everybody involved, but I also want to issue a call, a challenge, because we shouldn't accept this. This is not the way that things should be, and we should never grow comfortable in the face of these repeated tragedies all across America, and especially right here at home. We have a duty to act. We have to be more responsible as a city, as a state, as a nation, and stop these preventable tragedies from happening. It doesn't happen anywhere else but here. And you know, I know a whole lot of people who I've socialized with, a lot of folks who work in those halls. I've spent time with them on my personal time, and during campaigns, I've made a lot of good friends, and I'm actually afraid to see whose lives were lost in this tragedy. And this is something, as the mayor said, there were 5 people who went to work and thought they would come home. And you think about the families of those individuals, people who just want to earn an honest living, and unfortunately will not be making it back home tonight. This is something that should rest heavily on all of our hearts, all of our minds moving forward. And again, I can't repeat enough the fact that this is something that we should never come to accept as a society. But thank you all for being here, and my heart goes out to everybody impacted by this. And now our Governor, Tony Evers.
Thanks, Mandela. I think at this time, I know it's really cold out, but just a short moment of silence. The hearts of the people of Wisconsin go out to the folks that were needlessly murdered at Molson Coors this afternoon. The First Lady and I will be praying tonight together for the lives that have been lost. It is a tragedy for Milwaukee, yes, but it's a tragedy for the entire state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a strong state. What happens in Milwaukee happens, it impacts people all across the state, from Cornucopia to Kenosha. And so my role here tonight is to bring as many prayers as I can carry and hearts of the people of Wisconsin to the losses that have occurred. Thank you.
Thank you. As I stated, at approximately 9 o'clock, we'll see if we can give you additional information as the leadership from Molson Coors arrives. They will have additional information. We are making family notifications, And again, this is fluid. We'll update you as we move on. Thank you very much.
Everyone is out of the building right now. All the workers that were in the lockdown mode. Is everyone out?
No, they're not. There's over 1,000 employees. There's multiple buildings. More than 20 buildings we have to secure. We have checkpoints that we're checking off each employee one by one. That's going to take several hours to do. So I can't tell you who's all accounted for, who's missing, who's not, and that's why as this continues, we'll get that to you.
Do you believe right now that this is a lone gunman or no?
It's too early to tell. We believe we have it contained. We believe that subject is down, but I can't give you additional information. It may change, but right now we believe the target is down. That's all I have for you. We'll give you more at 9 o'clock. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have somebody that can do a Spanish one as well for you. If you for Spanish-speaking a statement, I have a PIO for you. Yes.
When you arrived on the scene, it was over.
There you have it. Chief Morales giving us the best information he has at this point.